how bad would it need to get before you resorted to seeing someone like me, the shrink? And how embarrassed would you feel if somebody you knew saw you leaving my office? Let's talk about pain. So, how do you feel about being in mental pain and then having to hide it? Physical pain? You're really ill or you break a bone. Would you also hide it? Would you just wait it out and hope it got better, pull yourself together? Or would you talk about it, make as much noise as you need to, and get yourself off to the ER or to the doctor as soon as possible? And afterwards, accept help and even talk about it, tell people what happened? I think we know the answer to that one. So let me ask you this. So if your mind is in pain or your brain feels broken, why the shame and the weirdness about speaking about it, about getting help? Doesn't make sense, does it? But actually, it's all the fault of one thing. And that one thing is stigma, which is what I want to talk about today. Actually, stigma has a friend, judgment. So it's two things. And believe it or not, it really got nothing to do with discrimination or with difference. So if you'd like to hear more, stay with me. Okay, so have you ever noticed, say you're out, maybe you're at work or you're out socially, even just in a shop, sitting somewhere, and somebody goes by and you notice that they're different. And then you notice that actually, without meaning to, you're judging them for that difference. Think about the 1 in 3 who's struggling with their mental health. Maybe they're not as much fun, they crying a lot, they're really miserable, they're complaining, or they're very quiet, they don't want to go out. And they basically become boring or a drag. See how that happened? So it's in that tiny moment, that tiny shift, that noticing shifts into stigma. I'm Dr. Colinda Linde, clinical psychologist and SADAG chairperson, SADAG being the largest mental health group for patient mental health advocacy on the continent. And today I'd like to talk all things stigma. Where does it come from? And really, it's not from cruelty or malice most of the time, but often it's just from something much more ordinary. The way we recognize a difference and then we assign a negative meaning to it. And then I'd also like to talk about how can we stop stigma practically before it begins. And that's really about learning to pause at the awareness before we slip into that judgment. So what is stigma actually? So formally, if we define stigma, it's the process of devaluing somebody because of a perceived difference. And it can affect people based on mental health conditions, race, disability, gender identity, socioeconomic status, you name it. And actually, it usually includes 3 steps. So first of all, recognizing a difference. Second, linking that difference to a negative stereotype. And then third, devaluing or excluding the person because of it. Now, that first stage, the recognizing the difference, isn't the problem. It's a natural part of how we process the world. The trouble begins when we don't stop there, when we attach judgment to what we observe. So let me give you an example. So you walk into a room and you notice somebody in a wheelchair. So there's a difference. That's just data. But if your mind jumps to they must be helpless, they probably can't do much, you've crossed the line into judgment, and it's so quick. Or maybe somebody shares that they live with depression, and your mind goes to, are they unstable? Can I trust them? That's not awareness, that's a narrative. And it's often shaped by our stereotypes, not necessarily truths. Okay, so let's think about nature. So in nature, animals discriminate all the time between friend or foe or food or mate. So think about a bird. A bird hears a sound and it knows that's the call of a mate or it's the cry of a predator. Okay. Let's think of a deer. So it's eating in the bushes and it hears a sound rustling. Is it a breeze Or could it be something like a predator coming to eat it? So these animals are discriminating all the time, but they're not judging. That's the difference. So they're not labeling the predator as evil. They're just predator, run. Not evil, not bad, or why are you doing this? They don't shame the weaker members of the herd. Oof, what's wrong with you? You're slowing us down. They don't do that. They just respond to information instinctively and without a moral commentary. Humans, we assign meaning, so we attach value, and we turn a difference into something hierarchic, and that's where stigma begins. And this judgment costs people a lot. So think of people living with mental illness, for example. They face many kinds of stigma. Number one, discrimination in work, school, and healthcare. Okay, there is the discrimination, but I should say judgment. Number two, social rejection or isolation. Number three, shame that prevents them from asking for help. And the worst of them all, number four, internalized stigma, believing they're broken or less than. So stigma doesn't just hurt feelings. It blocks opportunity, connection, and sometimes even survival. And it all starts in that tiny moment that I mentioned at the beginning. So why do we move from noticing to judging? Maybe it's fear, especially fear of the unfamiliar. Maybe it's discomfort. We don't know how to respond. And sometimes it's conditioning from media, culture, even childhood experiences. But here's the good news. So judgment is learned. Think about a little child. Maybe there's a spider, one of the things a lot of people are scared of, or a snake, or something ugly looking, maybe a scruffy looking dog. They're not judging. They're just looking at it with curiosity. They learn to judge from the rest of us. And that's where I say that this is really good news. As a CBT therapist, I know that we can unlearn and relearn. So that's wonderful. And, let's be realistic. We don't have to stop noticing difference. That's not possible anyway. But we can stop turning that noticing of the difference into a verdict. And it really starts with awareness and then a willingness to catch ourselves in that subtle but powerful shift from when we're observing a difference and then we're moving into the area of assumption, and we know judgment follows. So how can we interrupt stigma in our everyday lives? Well, here are 5 things that you can start doing immediately. Number 1, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, am I just noticing this difference, or honestly, am I judging it? Number 2, challenge your assumptions. Where did this thought come from? Is it based on fact, or a stereotype, or just a habit, an assumption? Number 3, use respectful, accurate language. Our words shape our reality for ourselves and others. Someone is going through something, or they're crazy or broke. Number 4, listen to real people's stories. Lived experience dismantles stereotypes faster than anything else, especially something you read in a textbook that's all intellectual. So actually somebody's lived experience makes a huge difference. And number 5, speak up when you witness stigma. Just the way that you demonstrate, the way you're engaging somebody who's going through something, or the way you normalize that their difference is just a difference. That tiny little change makes the biggest difference. And these aren't grand gestures. They're daily decisions, and they all add up. So the truth is, we don't need to erase difference, and we can't anyway. We just need to stop turning them into a verdict. So what about choosing curiosity over criticism? Or maybe compassion over assumption? That would go a long way towards ending stigma. So if this made you pause, please share it with somebody else, because stigma ends where awareness begins. For more insights on mental health, stigma, and more, please follow me or subscribe. And you can also find me on Instagram and on Facebook under Dr. Colinda Linde. Thank you for listening.